The New York Jets just won their first game, but in the celebration, there was a decision that went unnoticed by a ton of Jets fans, but not by all Jets fans. We got to break it all down. What's up, guys? I'm Matt Long. Welcome to Jets Football 365. If you're a New York Jet fan, hit that subscribe button. Getting into the news today from Jets X Factor. Speaking to reporters amid the euphoria of his first win as a head coach, Aaron Glenn was deflective about the reasoning behind Sherwood's brief benching. He said, "I'm keeping that between me and him and the team." So there's something going on behind the scenes. Also from Jets X Factor, they wrote, in the first quarter of the team's 39-38 comeback win over the Cincinnati Bengals, the Jets benched Sherwood from his normal starting linebacker spot, and instead, fifth-round pick Kiko Mauinoa got the start alongside All-Pro Quincy Williams. Sherwood was later reinserted into his every down role in the game, finishing with 5 tackles and a pass deflection on 41 defensive snaps. So, New York Jets first. Most important thing, got a dub. Love to see it. About time. 1-7. Took way too long as I try to adjust my camera. To 1-7, should not have taken that long to get Aaron Glenn's first win as a New York Jet. But if we look at the coaches that have taken longer, Dan Campbell was 0-8. Kyle Shanahan was 0 something worse than Aaron Glenn. And so was another head coach that I'm completely blanking on. Zach Taylor, Bengals head coach, went to a Super Bowl, started really, really poorly, worse than Aaron Glenn. But in the excitement of that New York Jets first win, team captain recently signed a contract extension over this past offseason. Jamien Sherwood was benched for the first quarter, and nobody knows why. And Aaron Glenn, in true Aaron Glenn fashion, is not telling us why the man was benched. And honestly, I respect it. There are some things on a football team. I know it's tougher in the New York market where everything comes out eventually and everyone's trying to ask you a ton of questions. The media is going crazy and the media is trying to get their fingers into everything. It's tough to keep things under wraps. But there are some things that you keep between the head coach and the players. And, when it has something to do with the captain of your football team and the captain of your defense, that's when it becomes something with the team as well. So Aaron Glenn knows, the defense knows, and the rest of the team knows. And of course, Jamien Sherwood knows the reason why he was benched. Doesn't make a ton of sense. Don't really want to speculate too much because we can see that it wasn't an injury because Jamien Sherwood was able to be re-entered versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Also, there are going to be questions swirling. If he sat in the first quarter and the New York Jets won and the games that he played the whole way, we lost them, doesn't make sense to consider doing this in the future? No, of course it does not make any sense to bench Jamien Sherwood in the future. Don't want to hear that question even being posed. But this is another example of Aaron Glenn. This is important because Aaron Glenn is showing that he's holding players accountable. And clearly, Jamien Sherwood made a mistake behind the scenes. But instead of pulling the Robert Saleh where they go, it's okay, we'll fix it later, we'll get him next time, something like that, the New York Jets came out and Aaron Glenn came out and said, there is a punishment. You break the rules. There is a punishment for your mistake. And Jamien Sherwood had to do the punishment and he got over it. Hopefully he doesn't make that same mistake again. But when you're holding players accountable like this, they understand that there are consequences for their actions. And I'm not saying they didn't know that before because they're all grown adults, obviously. But it's different when the person who has the authority over the team with the head coach is actually enforcing these issues and he's actually enforcing the things that he's talking about. Aaron Glenn has talked about accountability over the entire course of the season. And when you're 0-7, it's a lot easier to not hear what the coach is talking about. It's a lot easier to be like, man, you don't know what you're talking about. We're not winning any football games. I'm not even listening to what you're going to say. But with Aaron Glenn, he is showing that he is putting his principles into this team. And one of the things that he is showing is that there will be consequences to your actions. Their accountability, people will be held accountable. I've been honestly calling out Aaron Glenn myself because I've been saying he has not been holding players accountable. There have been fumble issues. There have been penalty issues. Guys have been making mistakes. And it has not seemed so far that there were actually punishments for players making mistakes like that. But now we are seeing that it's a team captain is getting the punishment, which shows that nobody is too big or too important for the punishment. Jamien Sherwood, as a team captain, everyone looks up to that player and they say, if he can get benched, then so can I. And I will be benched for less than what Jamien Sherwood would be benched for because the head coach doesn't ever want to bench one of their best players. So even though in a game when we get Quincy Williams back, you still want to make sure X's and O's wise, you got to make sure you're at full strength, and you never bench Jamien Sherwood on any sort of football reason. But when it is a message sending reason, that's way more important. And I talked about, not on this channel, but I talked about on other channels, the most important thing for Aaron Glenn this season is to put his culture on this team. And he needs the players to buy into what he is building. And that's why he has to give them a reason to stick around when the team's really bad. When they are starting 1-7 and 0-7, he has to give them a reason to stick around and reason for hope for the future. And he has to show them that there's a reason to go through the dark times because the light times are coming. I know a lot of people are getting too frustrated about how much he talks about the Detroit Lions, but it's such a good example of what Aaron Glenn is trying to build with this New York Jets team. Dan Campbell started 0-8 as a head coach, but now the Lions are they're the class of the NFL, arguably the best team in the NFL. I think they're the best team in the NFC, number 2 behind the Kansas City Chiefs, but arguably the best team in the NFL. Starting poorly, it shows you that it is not over when you have a bad start like this. When you have a culture-building head coach like Dan Campbell, like Aaron Glenn, instead of an X's and O's coach, it's different because it's harder to convince people and it's harder to put your own culture in. Whereas with Ben Johnson with the Chicago Bears, it's easier for him to come in. And when he comes in, day one, there's a new offensive game plan. There's a new offensive scheme. The offense is going to look a lot better from game one. And the media can see that Caleb Williams is playing better. And they attribute that after one game, they attribute that to Ben Johnson. So even though they lost week one, no one said anything bad about Ben Johnson. But now when Aaron Glenn comes out and they lose a bunch of games in a row, they're going, nothing looks better. Aaron Glenn's on the hot seat. Whereas, the Jets were never really realistically after 7 games considering firing their head coach, who they were excited to pick up. And he was, I still maintain this to this day, the number one coach for the New York Jets, the number one realistic option for the New York Jets over the summer, who they could have brought in. They got the guy. So you got to give him more than 7 games to figure out whether or not you're going to fire him or not. I mean, you got to give him at least a season. I understand the seat warming up, and I've said to myself that if he keeps coaching the same way he was coaching over the first 5 games, if that continued for all 18 weeks, then Aaron Glenn would be a one and done. But that hasn't happened yet. We still have 10 weeks of the NFL season. It starts with a bye next week, week 9. But after that, the New York Jets are going to be moving on to some extremely winnable games, as I realized that I had the Jets linebacker core ready to go. So we could see Quincy Williams, Jamien Sherwood, and Kiko Mauinoa are 3 starting linebackers. But, you want to make sure that you're at full strength, start all your guys. Let's see. Do I have the schedule going forwards? I do. The New York Jets schedule going forwards, very, very winnable. The Cleveland Browns defense, I know they're one of the best defenses in football, but their offense is so bad that this is a very winnable game for the New York Jets. The Jets offense may only score 11 points, but that might be all they need against Dillon Gabriel, who is actually, I just realized, Gabriel has been confirmed as a starter for the Cleveland Browns for week 9, but not for week 10 against the New York Jets. Could you imagine Shedeur Sanders makes his debut at MetLife Stadium? I would pay actually a lot of money for that ticket, and I think that would be a whole lot of fun to watch. But the New York Jets have more winnable games coming up on the schedule. With the Patriots are good, and they're definitely the best team on this list of our next 4 games. But the Patriots are a little bit overrated right now. They have beaten up on some pretty poor teams. They're beatable. They're very beatable. The Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson has won 1 game this season. So that team is also a very beatable team, even if/when Lamar Jackson returns to face the New York Jets. He's supposed to come back this Thursday versus the Miami Dolphins. When Lamar Jackson is back to face the New York Jets, that's still a winnable game for the New York Jets. They're still down Nnamdi Madubuike. They're an amazing defensive tackle. They're going to be down more guys on that defense, and that's assuming all the guys that are healthy right now stay healthy. So the New York Jets are going to have plenty of chances to win that game. The Falcons are struggling currently at quarterback. Michael Penix Jr., they're keeping the game plan very, very easy for him, but the other side of that is defensively, the Falcons are very easy to game plan for. Kirk Cousins was graded out as an F by CBS Sports this weekend for his season, or was it? I think it was the season debut, graded as an F was Kirk Cousins for the Atlanta Falcons. So we're going to see who is that quarterback versus the New York Jets. We're going to be at MetLife Stadium. When you're as bad as the Jets are, the MetLife Stadium, not a fantastic home field advantage, but whatever that's worth, the New York Jets will have that advantage. So even 4 more very winnable games for the New York Jets. And I can't wait to see how this season turns out, because it can only get better after 0-7. It can only get better for the New York Jets. But that's what I got for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and go Jets.